Ph.D. candidate at the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, and La Trobe University, Australia. I warmly welcome each one of you, especially our doctoral students and emerging scholars and prospective members of Academy of Management and Management, Spirituality and Religion, MSR Division, to this open house. We are truly delighted to have you here, whether you are joining us out of curiosity with specific research questions in mind or simply seeking a scholarly community that resonates with your values, you are at the right place. So the purpose of this session is simple yet significant, to help you understand who we are as a division, what we stand for, and how you might find an intellectual home within MSR. For those new to us, MSR Division of Academy of Management is a scholarly community that explores the deeper, often overlooked dimensions of organizational life. We are a community engaged in interdisciplinary, theoretical, and applied research and pedagogy related to the relevance and relationship of spirituality and religion in management. We at MSR explore how spirituality and religion can influence organizational dynamics and affect management outcomes. The vision of MSR Division is to work towards human flourishing and global consciousness that illuminate and are illuminated by science and the spiritual and religious dimensions of life in management research, teaching, and practice. So keeping this spirit alive, today's open house is structured to give you a clear, accessible, and honest introduction to this community. To help you navigate this exploration, I have the privilege of introducing our distinguished speakers joining us today. Each of them brings a unique lens to MSR, and I encourage you to listen to them closely as they share their perspectives in the session. First, I am honored to introduce our division chair, Dr. Tom Culham. Tom is currently chair of the MSR Division of AOM. Formerly, he was an engineer and senior business leader. Later, he obtained a Ph.D. in philosophy of education at Simon Fraser University. He currently lectures and conducts ethics education research at Simon Fraser University's School of Business. Thank you, Tom, for your leadership and for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Next, we have a true legend in our field, Professor Jerry Biberman. Jerry is a founder member and flamekeeper of the MSR Division of AOM. He is Professor Emeritus at the University of Scranton, USA, and a former co-editor of the Journal of Management, Spirituality, and Religion. His work has been instrumental in shaping the field of management, spirituality, and religion. Jerry, we are deeply grateful for your foundational contributions and welcome to this open house event.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is prolific scholar and our dedicated program chair, Professor Payal Kumar. Payal is program chair, MSR, and global ambassador, co-chair elect, MET division. She is also special issues editor of JMSR and reviewer for AMR, AMLE, and JOB. Some of her accolades include Andre Delbecq and Lee Robbins MSR Scholarship and the Best Symposium Prize at AOM 2022. As a prolific author, she has published 20 books and several research papers. Thank you, Payal, for your continued dedication, leadership, and service to the division. I welcome you to the event.
Thank you for inviting me, and I welcome everybody, and thank you for arranging this, Vineet. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we are also delighted to be joined by a dynamic force behind our global outreach, Dr. Ekaterina Ivanova. Ekaterina is a representative at large for communications and outreach in the MSR Division and associate professor at the Graduate School of Business, HSC, University, Russia. She also serves as co-chair of the UN Global Compact Prime Working Group on Arts for Impact and vice chair for research of the Prime Chapter Eurasia, and is actively engaged in advancing responsible management and education scholarship. Thank you, Ekaterina, for your commitment to communications and outreach and MSR divisions. Welcome to the event.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you for making this happen, because you are the leading force behind this event, working behind the scenes, and ran, of course, with the student committee. Without the collaboration, would have been possible. So very well, warm welcome to everyone.
Thank you. Next, we have a truly interdisciplinary mind, our tech lead, Dr. Gaetan Momand. Ketan serves as tech lead for the MSR Division. He's a Microsoft Excel MVP, the founder and CEO of Accelerator, and visiting professor at Business Science Institute, France. His academic work focuses on AI, decision-making, spirituality, and classic grounded theory. Thank you, Ketan, for joining us. Great to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
And finally, let me welcome our active member and dedicated volunteer, Saloni Sinha. Saloni serves as a volunteer within the MSR division and is an assistant professor at the Birla Institute of Management Technology, India. For more than 25 years, she has played a key role in research, training, and teaching in the area of communicative competence across the education sector, government institutions, and corporate organizations. Thank you, Saloni, for your service to MSR and for joining us today.
Thank you.
So before we proceed, let me make a logistical announcement. To help the session run smoothly, we kindly ask everyone to keep your microphones muted during the presentations. If you have a question, please post it in the chat at any time. We'll monitor the chat throughout the session and take questions as and when time permits. Toward the end, we'll also open the floor for discussion and invite participants to unmute themselves and engage directly with our speakers. So with that, let us now dive into the heart of our session, and I invite Jerry to guide us through a short, reflective, and a contemplative practice to create presence and open the space for dialogue. Over to you, Jerry.
Thank you, Vineet. And it's weird to be a legend, but I guess I'm a legend in my own mind anyway. Anyway, so let's to help us center ourselves, I'd like everyone to sit comfortably in your chair and take 3 deep breaths. And now imagine that there's a beam of light that's coming towards your forehead, and this beam of light will represent calm, peaceful energy. And so imagine that light now entering into your head, into your face, back of your head, your neck, down your right arm, down your left arm, down your right leg, down your left leg, and up the front of your body and down the back of your body. And just scan your body anywhere where there's still any tension and bring that light over to that part of your body. And feel yourself sinking into the chair, just breathing normally, feeling very calm and relaxed. And now imagine yourself in a place where for you, you're most relaxed, where for you, you feel the most calm, at peace, most able to tap into yourself, where you feel most able to identify with your thoughts or come up with thoughts and ideas. Imagine yourself in this place, and what does it look like? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What emotions are you feeling? Now, this is a place that you can go to anytime because it's in you. And anytime you want to go to this place, all you have to do is imagine yourself in this place. And I would like you to take your fingers in both hands and touch your thumb to your forefinger in both hands. So you anchor this place. Anytime you want to feel this feeling of calm and peace, you can touch your forefinger to your thumb and you can be in this place. So spend a few minutes there, a few seconds in that place, just feeling calm, relaxed. And then whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes but still keeping that calmness and that relaxed feeling. Okay. So if anyone would like to put anything in the chat about how that felt. But no, again, what we're doing is anchoring that feeling. So anytime you feel like you want to be relaxed, just do this. You can see, and you get to that place. Okay, Vinny.
Thank you, Jerry, for making us aware of our being and creating this focus space. With that, let us now move to the formal start of our open house. It is now my honor and privilege to formally invite the current chair of the MSR Division, Professor Tom Culham, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you, Vineet. I'll just share my slides here a bit. So I'd like to start with a bit of a story. In about 2010 or 11, when I was partway through my Ph.D., I was giving a presentation at a philosophy conference at the University of Waterloo with my senior supervisor. Her name was Hisun. So this had nothing to do with AOM. That we were talking about our research, and the topic of our presentation was bringing emotions into the classroom. And her name was Hisun. And when we were done the presentation, an elderly gentleman in the crowd jumped out of a seat and said, "You should be dead for bringing this into the world, Hisun." So the reason for bringing this up is at that time and quite often in academic settings, there's this sort of competitive sense. There's this us against you. There's this dog eat dog kind of approach to academia. But the point I want to make here about MSR is that it is a place of belonging that's open, collaborative, and friendly. It's one of the things that I think sets it apart from. I don't know all the other divisions at AOM, but my first reaction when I met people and participated in MSR activities was the list that I've got on the slide here. So yeah, I just want to make that point. I think that's something that's really important, was really important to me, and I know that when I hear others in the academy who participate with MSR, these are the kinds of words they use for their experience. Just a very brief overview of who we are and where we came from. Started in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and I'm sure Jerry will correct me if I've got anything incorrect here. It was known as a special interest group within the AOM. But at that time, not just within MSR and not just within AOM, there was a growing interest in academia about spirituality and how it influences life, spirituality, religion. We continued to grow throughout the 2000s into 2010s. And I'm not going to read all this, but you can see the types of things that we were involved in and what we worked on. And finally, a big step in our development as a community in the AOM was our recognition as a division in 2023. And that's important for a number of reasons. It recognizes us as an established and legitimate field of management scholarship, and puts us on the equal footing to other interest or divisions such as organizational behavior. And it signals the importance of conducting research in spirituality and religion. And I think one of the things that really contributed to us attaining this status was a scholarship that was granted to the MSR community by the Fetzer Institute, and that helped people who were receiving those scholarships also recognize that this is recognized, and their home institutions saw this as significant as well. So this was one of the major steps in our development. And currently, we are a global interdisciplinary network focused on spirituality and religion in management organizations and society. This is something from our missions, visions, and goals, just to give you an idea of where we're going. We better the world through a disciplinary network of management academics and practitioners exploring the role of the significant and sacred. And I'm not going to read the vision statement. You can read that. It is important. We have these three goals. One is to develop the quality of MSR research and teaching. We just held a colloquium last week, which focused on that. 36 hours of discussions from people around the world, how they engage with management, spirituality, and religion in their work. Another goal is to outreach, and people like Katrina, who's here, is involved in that activity, reaching out not just to MSR, but to communities outside of MSR in the Academy of Management and in the broader world. And the third strategic goal is pursuing partnerships. So one example of a partnership was the Fitzer Institute, which provided scholarships for emerging scholars. The initiatives and teams that are currently underway is research and publications. That was a community that put on the colloquium last week. Communications and outreach, which Katrina is involved in. A retreat where we create a space where individuals can come together and talk about their practices, spiritual or religious practices, in an open and generative setting, and even engage others in help others understand their practices. And then Vina is working on that, and early career mentoring and scholarship, which Vineet is working on. And he's going to talk about that later. And then teaching and learning, which Deborah Natoli is also working on. I'm sorry, I forgot. Research and publications are developed by Tien Yuan Yu. So these are the initiatives. If any of you are interested in participating in MSR, we welcome your interest. We welcome you to identify something that's of value and interest to you to get engaged in. And that's all I have for my presentation. I do want to welcome any of you who are new here and interested. You can reach out to myself or Katrina or Payal, or Gaetan or Vineet or Jerry, to get a better sense of who we are and what we do. So back over to you, Vineet.
Thank you, Tom, for that inspiring welcome and for setting the tone for our session today. Moving on to the next segment of our open house, we now turn to the historical and foundational roots of the MSR division. While Tom, you touched upon it in your presentation, we would like to understand them in more detail, and to help us understand where we come from and how this community evolved. I'm deeply honored to invite the founding member and the flame keeper of our division, Jerry. Over to you, Jerry.
Thank you, Vineet. So one thing I do not have is any PowerPoints, so because I don't like them, and so I don't use them. So anyway. As Tom mentioned, the interest group started in 2002. So that was actually the first year that we were a special interest group in the Academy of Management, and I was the first chair of the interest group. And then in that same year, I was asked by Jochen Altman, he was starting a journal called the Journal of Management, Spirituality, and Religion, and he asked if I would be a co-editor with him. So that year I was the first chair, and I was also the first co-editor of the journal. I'm still involved with the journal now. I think my title is something like ombudsman. I didn't realize that's what I am, but apparently I'm the final arbiter when they're not sure who to accept a paper or not. I noticed here that Prius had a question about wanting to choose a topic, and is there any information on research? I'm going to briefly touch on some of that, either now or down the road. So we started the interest group started in 2002, but actually it dates back earlier than that. We were doing professional development workshops for 2 or 3 years before that through the Management Education Division. And so they were very welcoming. They let us do that. We were also, myself and Judy Neal were able to edit a couple of special issues of the Journal of Organization Change Management. And David Bogie was the editor of that at the time. So we've been involved, or, the area of spirituality research dates probably back to the late 1990s, when none of you were around except maybe me, and I don't know who else was there. And so one thing I wanted to mention is, in my mind, there's two very important things. One is the research, and the other thing is the community. And what makes me really happy is that was a major thing for me, is to have a community where everybody felt welcome. My experience in the Academy of Management, now this is back in the 80s and the 90s, was that if you weren't from a big school and they didn't have a name, people would walk up to you, they would look at your name tag. If they didn't recognize the school or they didn't recognize your name, they just turned away and walked away. And I was teaching at a small Jesuit school in Pennsylvania, University of Scranton, so nobody recognized the school, nobody recognized my name. And now, of course, apparently I'm famous according to the need. I don't know. But at the time, and so I thought I kind of went out of my way, and I remembered that. So whenever I would meet anyone, I would welcome them into the group. And so now it's what, 24 years later or 25 years later. And that's still one of the things that people talk about the group, is that they feel welcome. So I think that's very important. The other thing that I think is important is, back when we started the interest group, there were not a whole lot of people talking about spirituality in management. And where I was at the University of Scranton, I was in the business school. The people in the theology department thought I was crazy. What the hell did I have anything to do with, spirituality? The people in the business in my own school thought I was crazy. Like, what are you talking about this stuff? They should be in theology. And I think we've come a long way, because now people recognize, it's actually turned into, starting to recognize the field. And, at the beginning, it was, as, Prime mentioned, it was a little difficult trying to publish something in a field that no one's heard of, that kind of thing. There were some people who thought this is too airy-fairy, and, what does this have to do with management? But I think over time, as you can see, the research has developed, and now we've become recognized as a field. And I think one way you can tell if we're recognized, if it starts to show up in textbooks. So if you start to see something about this in a textbook, that's one sign that, okay, maybe now people are remembering, thinking about this. The journal it's about to put out its 100th issue, and it's recognized in Scopus, which I think recognizes, like a scholarly, scholarly standing. Also, when we first started the journal, we were putting in things on poetry and art and music. And one of the goals that I would like to work on during the coming year is to put that back, get that back. Not in the journal, because the journal is focusing more on the research stuff, but I would like to see kind of a contemporary journal to that's more right brain stuff and gets more into poetry and music and all those kinds of things. But it's always been a part of MSR, especially in the pre-conference, the PDWs. And so that's a little bit behind the background. Let's see. You wanted to know the reason that we got, well, my own particular reason for getting started was that I had a transpersonal experience in 1976, a feeling of oneness and a feeling of being connected to everything. And I was trying to make sense of that. And so that's how I got interested in trying to understand what this means. And I've been meditating since 1980 and done all kinds of meditation since then. And so I was always interested in the field. And there was another organization, International Association of Business Disciplines, back in the 90s. This was a lot of people from India and non-Western uh, countries who were having trouble getting papers in the Academy of Management. And so this was a group that was started by this person, Abbas Al-Khafaji, and it was an alternate way to get the research published, or at least presented. And I was their editor of their yearbook. And as a favor to me, they let me start a group. They let me start a interest group in that in the International Academy of Business Disciplines on spirituality. And so that's kind of where we started. Then a number of the people, you know, kind of moved on into the Academy of Management. There was also a session that was an early session in the Academy of Management, aside from the PDWs we put on, that Lee Robbins was involved with and several other people. And the attendance was so big that they were filled up the room and they were standing out in the hallway. And comments of people back then when we first started was, boy, do we need something like this. So it was beginning to, you know, and I think over time we've kind of influenced, we're more and more influencing the overall academy. Sometimes if you look at the topics for the year, they seem related to what we're talking about. So I want to welcome all of you. I think, you know, you'll certainly feel welcome and have a home if you decide you want to go be involved with MSR. And of course, you can pick 3 divisions, so you don't have to just pick MSR. Just, you know that we're always welcome to have you. Vineet, do you have anything else you want me to say?
That was insightful, Jerry. If you can also mention briefly about why do questions for meaning, spirituality, religion remain still important for management scholarship? I mean, you touched
Oh,
upon
okay.
it, but if in detail you can.
Yes. I think it's always been important, but it's management for too many years has been too positivistic. And now some of this is my own opinion, but a lot of what happens in the management field seems to be based on psychology. And I mean, my background is psychology. I have a PhD in, you know, in the psychology area. And when I first went into psychology, I think a lot of people, when they go into psychology, they figure, well, I have a problem and maybe psychology will help me solve it. Then the first thing you learn when you go into psychology is it's the science of human behavior. Now, this is back in the 70s or 80s. And you spent the whole time studying rats running around in cages and, you know, all behavior modification and almost nothing looking at internal stuff, even though the origins of psychology was all internal things, William James and all these people. And that's something that got wiped out. I mean, you know, there's just this big emphasis on positivism. You know, so if you look at the research, it's too many multiple correlations and, Likert scales and all this kind of stuff. And meanwhile, we're all people who have these real soul problems and soul issues that we deal with, but somehow we cut them off from our work life, if that makes any sense. And so, or we bury them and we don't recognize them and stuff. So we have there's 2 aspects. There's the religion side. You also have the spiritual side. When we were first starting out, personally, I didn't want to mention, I was more interested in spirituality. And for a while, we didn't want to define it. It was like, keep it as broad as we could, you know. But every religion, starts with a mystic, and all the mystics, start with some spiritual experience. And I think it's just something, if you look at what's going on in the world now, not just in management, but in general, there's certainly a need for this. Um, and it's been an area that hasn't really, been looked at. Sometimes, when people think of religion, they think about, well, managing a monastery or managing a church or something. But the question is, and we're seeing it more and more now, is a realization that no, what's important is how do our values and how does our soul influence the way we lead, the way we act? You can't cut that part out for you. So, now I still think there are people who think this should have nothing, we're a science and we shouldn't be talking about this stuff. And then there's people like me who feel, no, if you're a whole person, if you look at the brain, you don't just have the left brain, you also have the right brain. And to be a whole person, you need to have both. See, this is my equivalent of a PowerPoint right here. Anyway, so I don't know if that helps to explain it, but the other thing I think it's important for people to follow their heart and to do stuff that they feel is meaningful. And so if you're feeling that talking about these kinds of issues is meaningful, then you should pursue it. When I first started out, that was hard. As a Prius, it's kind of hard. Like, who wants to do that? But now there's more and more acceptance, and if the journal is there, the Journal of Management, Spirituality, and Religion. There are other journals that are out there, and more you can find professors that will be willing to work with you on a topic like this. I think the other thing is, things have changed over the years. Back when I was a doctoral student, the idea at the time was, I had to suffer, so now you have to suffer. I'm your professor. I had to suffer. You have to suffer. And you have to put me first when you publish an article. You got to put my name first, even if you didn't have any, there was this whole thing that I think isn't there anymore. I think things are kind of, it's a better time for doing this kind of research. So.
Thank you, Jerry, for that detailed explanation and also talking earlier about the rich and insightful journey into the historical foundations of MSR. So now that we understand where we come from, let us turn our attention to the present and the future, specifically the scholarly landscape that MSR occupies today. To help us navigate the intellectual scope of MSR and the types of research questions we engage with, I'm pleased to invite our program chair, Professor Payal Kumar. Over to you, Payal.
Thank you so much. So I'll just put up my slides. I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, thank you to flame keepers like Jerry who have sown the seeds, which has made it a bit easier for the rest of us. And I take him as my spiritual mentor. In fact, I've had some spiritual questions and I've turned to him. So I just want to acknowledge that, Jerry. Thank you for being there. So Vineet asked me, why don't you talk about how did you get involved with MSR? So I didn't actually get involved with MSR as a scholar. I was a DEI scholar. I used to write on leadership. And in fact, in the academy, I was in leadership positions in what was known as the GDO division, which is now DEI, and also the HR division. So MSR came later because I started attending some retreats. So it was more of a spiritual connection in the beginning. So just to show you this, some of you may recognize this Lakshman Jula in Rishikesh. And this is where I had a spiritual experience at the age of 14, which brought me from England, where I was living, to come and, live in India eventually. So that kind of a calling, you could say. And then since then, I got involved with MSR by attending a lot of the retreats. One of them, I put some pictures here, was in Illinois, USA. Another one, and then these retreats helped me meet like-minded people. I felt, finally, I felt I belonged. Finally, took me a lot of decades. But these people, you might recognize a few of them here: Jacob Eisenberg, Richard Paraguay. Jim Lockhart has got his back to us. These are a lot of the original folks. And I finally felt, although they're from all over the world, different faiths, but we have this connection of being professors interested in research, but also in spirituality and religion. So you can see this is another picture of a retreat. Again, it was a time for reflection. And I was very grateful to win the MSR Retreat Scholarship. Here is another picture of one of the retreats where we did a labyrinth walk, which is very powerful type of spiritual reflection when you go into the labyrinth and you come out again, and it helps you reflect deeply. I actually found it very powerful, so we would share new experiences. People would teach us different types of walking meditation, eating meditation. We had we cried together, we've laughed together, extremely beautiful experiences. So this is what bound us, which is what Jerry is saying. Thou art one with this universal being, and as such, every soul that exists is your soul, and everybody that exists is your body. And in hurting anyone, you hurt yourself. In loving anyone, you love yourself. So we all felt that there was this common thread amongst humanity, no matter what faith or no matter, whichever geography they may come from. So that's how my relationship with MSR started. And I didn't realize that it would actually lead me to scholarship. Again, it was not a plan, it happened. So some MSR researchers pulled me into their research topics, and I'm grateful to them. So we even managed to publish in FT50 journal, just a Journal of Business Ethics. So this was a paper on DEI, but we're looking at it from a Buddhist, Taoist, and a Hindu perspective. And then here's another paper looking at, nature, basically sun worship, and how important that is. And here's the third one. Literally, I was pulled into all of these, and I'm very grateful to the authors that I worked with. This was about looking at sustainable development goals are completely failing. I went to a conference in Spain last year, a UN conference, and I realized how much they're just not reaching there. So I said, maybe we need to look at the problem with a different lens. Yeah. So now going back to MSR, what is it all about? So this is, in terms of research, this is what we're looking for. We focus on interdisciplinary, theoretical, and applied research related to relevance and relationship of spirituality and religion in management and organizational life. So there's a question in the in the chat box, how do I start the research? So like any other research, so for example, we put out call for papers for the Journal of Management Spirituality in JMSR, but I'm also the special issue editor. So when I receive a special issues concept note, I often have to go back and tell the scholar concerned that you need to do a very deep literature review, right? Literature review, find a gap. Why are we doing this issue? What relevance does it have? Similarly as what we do to a paper. So we first need to read what's there, which you can find quite a lot on JMSR and other journals. This Tom has already shared our vision and mission. So talking about AOM this year, for which we've been working very hard, all the leadership group and other people who are volunteers, it's going to be held in Philadelphia. We received 82 submissions in terms of papers, out of which 41 were accepted. More or less an even keel between conceptual, qualitative, and quantitative. 37 PDWs and 10 symposia. So this is what I had to deal with as program chair, quite a lot of work. And then I divided all the papers received into various themes. So you can see over here on the left, especially if you're a first-time researcher, these are the themes that people seem to be writing about. Yeah. And here is just, I'm giving a bird's eye view of some of the papers. You can just read the titles. Some of the papers which have been accepted, exciting papers, yeah. And you can see that quite a range, yeah. From the individual coping mechanism to leadership to management education, and even looking at a group of marginalized ethics and talking about spirituality and how it can help, yeah. So different levels of analysis, from the individual to the dyadic to the meso level as well. And another thing that I'd like to talk to you about is, apart from papers and symposium and PDWs, which will, people will be presenting, we also have a lovely plenary planned, which is called Spirituality and Love in Action. So Duff McDonald, and I'm very happy to see him. I don't know if he's still there. I did see him in the audience. Yeah, hi, Duff. Great to see you. I mean, we've been in touch on emails, but we've not actually spoken as yet. And so he's going to be joined by Dr. Apurva Gupta. So they've both been in industry and in healthcare, and yet they're bringing in a spiritual lens into this. So, I mean, just to summarize it, we feel it's more than a plenary. It's a call to reimagine leadership, education, and impact in a rapidly developing world. Anybody who's around in Philadelphia, please be there. 1st of August is Saturday, 9 o'clock to 11:30 a.m. With your permission, Vineet, if I could just ask Duff just to speak for a minute, is that okay?
Yes,
About the
sure.
session?
Sure.
Please go ahead. If you just introduce yourself, Duff, is that fine? If you just introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. This is really exciting. My name's Duff McDonald, longtime business journalist and author who, in summary, until a couple of years ago, thought that numbers were the only really important thing in life. And they guided my journalism and my authorship. And had a revelation in early COVID, and sort of everything went upside down in a good way. And I'm happy to and hoping to share that experience with whoever's in Philadelphia, because it was pretty profound for me. So I'm hoping I can get it across in a way that people can appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So anybody there at Philadelphia, please do attend this. It's very important for us, this plenary. So basically, I would say that in a nutshell, for me personally, and I know for a lot of other people, MSR is not just about scholarship. It's far beyond that. It's life-altering, transformative possibilities. The retreats have been very powerful. My dog is trying to get himself involved. He's in the background. Yeah, so very powerful, and it's been completely transformative. I mean, I never expected by going to spiritual retreats, meeting like-minded people who I still wait to meet, the next year, would lead me to scholarship in this direction and would lead me to leadership position in MSR, completely unexpected. And that's it. I'm happy to take questions, or we can go on to the next speaker as you wish, Vinny. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Payal, for that comprehensive overview of the scholarly landscape that MSR offers. It is clear that our division embraces a rich diversity of research questions and methods, and also perspectives. But as we all will agree, scholarship doesn't happen in isolation. Division truly comes alive through its people, its networks, and the genuine connections that scholars build with one another. For doctoral students and early career researchers, finding a supportive community can be just as transformative as finding the right research question. To help us understand how MSR fosters community, mentorship, and belonging, I'm delighted to invite our representative at large for communications and outreach, Dr. Ekaterina Ivanova, to share her views. Over to you, Ekaterina.
Thank you so much, Vineet. And again, just to continue the tradition with no slides, I think we have excellent combination of speakers today. I'll be in the Jerry's format telling the story how I became part of the MSR division, because when I was finishing my PhD, I think my first academy was in Vancouver in Canada, and I had no idea where I was going. It was huge. It was not clear to me at all what this division meant. And at that point, my dissertation was on nonprofit management, and that division was not that attractive to me. So I started exploring, and I think it took me several years just to understand where the cool people are. And for me, the cool people are with the MSR division. So I also started with the PDWs, which were odd, but they were about art, they were about dance, they were about transformative experiences. And that's how my intuition led me to the community, where at some point I was asked to participate in the election. And that was done by a very respected scholar who was the past chair of the MSR division, Nick Burton. And he convinced me to try. I was not sure if I even can participate and can contribute. But he said, you have nothing to lose. So I thought, okay, I'll volunteer. And that's how I got elected. I didn't know that this is a very serious responsibility that would require some time. I would say significant amount of time. Gaetan knows what we're talking about because we both are working almost on a weekly basis, if not daily basis, and Saloni too, with making outreach activities visible. And I'll just share maybe some examples of how I came up into the division more actively. So this is the book which I really love because Payal and Tom were the co-editors, and I have one of the book chapters here with my dear colleague Charlie Young from University of South Connecticut and Julia Hufnagel. She was a PhD student and a Fellow scholar. Because of Julia, I'm part of this discussion, and the book chapter here is also co-written with Maria Ivanova. And we were sharing our experiences here on how art-based pedagogies actually help us develop students and how we can be creative in the emerging market context where I come from, being a Russian scholar. And I just love the book projects. So another activity that we just did recently, because teaching, as Tom emphasized, is also a very important strategic pillar of MSR. And we hosted a webinar with our responsible team leading this important part of MSR work on another book project that I'm very happy to share, because Saloni is also part of this book on the power of art-based pedagogies. And we talked with our co-editors. Divya Sinhal is also here, and Isabel Romanossi, who is also a very active member of the MSR community. Hello, Divya. Maybe you can step in and say a few words about this experience. We're doing this in a very improvisational way, please. Because Divya was also part of the book, and she actually, during this webinar, quoted her poem, which I totally loved, because that brought something very special into the conversation. Divya?
I think, working with Ekaterina and Isabel on this book, and of course, Saloni, who is a volunteer, was integral part as author. I think that gave us an idea of connecting to our own, the passions. And I think the MSR division stands for looking inward, and it allowed us to look inward. And that's the beauty of, and I am also now drawn into this MSR division because of Ekaterina and Saloni. So thank you so much for this experience.
Thank you so much, Divya. We're doing this in a very improvisational way, kind of a jazz format. But I wanted to share also two resources for you, just to illustrate what you can be doing. So first of all, our LinkedIn page. If you're not part of our LinkedIn community, please follow us, because this is where a lot of announcements come, and that's how you can stay updated with everything that's going on in terms of the outreach. And the second very concrete example how you can get engaged, and what was very surprising for me when I got invited by Johanan, the founder of the JMSR journal, to work with Nick Burton, who invited me to be part of the MSR. So now we have a call for special issue and the Journal of Management, Spirituality and Religion on reviews at the intersection of the scholarship that we have within the MSR division and other fields of management. So if you're into the entrepreneurship, for instance, in your research focus, and you want to connect it in this literature review and write a paper for the special issues, this is something that we're looking forward now. And the deadline for submissions is September 30th. So we're very much looking forward to your contributions, especially for the PhD students who are finishing up their papers, or later career scholars who already know the field. Katya, I'm talking to you. So hello to Australia. And anyone who's interested, we're here. And yeah, you can always approach me with any questions. I'll be happy to help. So back to you, Vinit. I hope that this kind of performance on my end showed the spirit, how engaging MSR is, and how we feel part of the community in the spirit that Jerry shared with all of us.
Thank you, Ekaterina, for that wonderful overview of how MSR nurtures community and belonging, and also sharing the upcoming calls in the chat. Just one question, if you can highlight on what is that one simple way the students, the doctoral students can begin engaging and becoming part of the MSR community. What is that one simple advice you would like to give them? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Okay, I'll start
Okay.
answering the question. You can volunteer. You can volunteer by becoming a reviewer for the annual Academy of Management for the MSR division. I think this is like the most basic service that you can do for the community. We always need excellent reviewers, and then reviewers get recognition like the Best Reviewer Award. This is something that always is part of the Academy of Management, and this is just a good skill that everyone can develop throughout the journey. And then do simple things like volunteering. I hope that Saloni can share a little bit more about that, or each one of us, we can start volunteering formally, informally, but I think this is the easiest way that you can start contributing a little bit.
I agree. That's a great piece of advice. I started the same way. And now I am part of the MSR community, taking more responsibilities. And also, it is enhancing my own skills and making me learn several aspects of it. So, thank you for sharing that. Next, I'm pleased to invite our technology lead, Dr. Gaitan Mohammed, to reflect on his journey and connection with MSR. Over to you, Gaitan.
No, thank you. I will go do a mix of it, a little bit of jazz and a little bit of presentation. I'm super happy and excited to see all of you. I think it's wonderful to have this traction. And okay, just jazzily, I just remember it was 15 years ago when I was teaching a course on decision making. And it was a very relatively formal course, but at the end, we sat with the students in a circle and we just started to share our deep spiritual experiences. And to my surprise, those people, those students who were in their 20s, they were just having a lot of spiritual experiences and lots of questions. And I think it triggered something in me and saying, okay, well, if all those people have those questions and they were just taking a course on decision making in a business school, so there's really something to explore there. So I think it's one of those things that piqued my interest. I was trained as a statistician, so I did a lot of structural equation modeling, a lot of computer and IT. So my mental analytical brain is still extremely active, but I love to bring this into a more esoteric or a more meditative or a more spiritual or mystical place where we can see, okay, what will happen if we all share those experiences that we had. And I think it's a wonderful place here. Tom will agree with me. The idea of an experiential research, and already in the chat, people were referring to a meditation training that they took on Vipassana, or the retreat that Payal was mentioning. Those are really transformative experiential research in many ways, because if we start to share our experience, if we start to share our deep spiritual, mystical awakening, then we can start to gather data, and then my mental analytical brain is happy, and then we can start to compare and everything. And of course, some people will say that everything is unique, so we can't really compare, but we're human and we have been growing like this. So I've been serving as the tech lead for MSR and also part of the research group with Tian Yun. We just finished a beautiful colloquium. Vinny, would you like to ask your question or should I continue?
You can continue.
So Vinny's question was, what emerging question, method, or interdisciplinary possibilities do you see shaping the future of MSR scholarship? So this is the type of question, I don't know where you came up with that question, Vinit, but I love it. So trying to explore and push the boundaries. So I'm just going to share what we've done here. Interesting, that should be this one. So This is the website of MSR. Can you see it? Yeah.
Yes.
So just 2 days ago, the tech lead for the colloquium successfully after 1 week of very hard work to edit all the videos. So I'm super happy. We have them now completely available here. They are going to bring you to YouTube. But I just want to scroll with you through this website because it's just going to give you an idea of what are the ideas that are discussed within our group and how we can expand that. So we're super happy. We start with the mystical mind, and we had a neuroscientist who was explaining how we can do MRI when people are meditating. Okay, that's great. Now, my wife is doing a lot of channeling, so she's downloading information. Okay, can we do the same thing when she's channeling? What happened when a manager is sending loving kindness to his team? Can we do an MRI of that? So those are type of questions I'd love to explore. We explore the timelessness. What is time? And we had a beautiful meditation on the beach and reflecting on the sand, and it was really lovely. And so those are interesting topic. How sacred geometry could help a manager make better decisions. Is it even such a thing? I'm just exploring frontiers. Yeah. Engaging with meditative inquiry in teaching, research, and creation. Mysticism and the transformation of the researcher. What is this deep transformation that is coming up when we meditate, when we go through a mystical or spiritual experience? The mystic as researcher, the extremely important aspect, which I think is key to MSR, is that we are doing experiential research, or a lot of us are doing experiential research. So we should be super open to share those experiences. And part of the reason we started with meditation, part of the reason some of us explain who they are, is really about sharing that space so that we can share more and explore and understand more. I remember one of my first AOM, the first person came and said, okay, I'm a Reiki master. And then the next one was, when I was 17, I started to see aura around people. And then another one said, yeah, I went in the street and I started to see aura around the trees. And I was like, oh my God, where am I? That's my team. So now we've got an open space for sharing those experiences. And it's just amazing because then I can share how I did a healing on a horse at a distance. And at the end, the horse came to me, give me a big hug here. And I don't know if you have had a hug from a horse, but it's an amazing experience. And so I can share this type of thing. And then I can share on how I blessed, sending so lots of loving kindness to someone who's going to potentially hire me. And I've never been so welcome in my entire life to the organization. So as I share those anecdotes, then I can push some of the boundaries. So we've got 24 talks here that were done 10 days ago. How do you measure the unmeasurable with Jerry? Algorithm for healing. Divination. This is one of the things I love about it, is how can we, so we're in the age of AI. So AI is going to bring a lot of technical answer, a lot of knowledge. Now we need wisdom. How do we access wisdom? And I think MSR has a big part to play on accessing this wisdom. Sharda has laid a lot of ground on knowledge, different type of knowledge. There is the K knowledge model. So it's K1, K2, K3, K4. K4, if I remember well, it's unknowable, unknown knowledge. And then when you have a model like this, you can go in meditation and start to say, okay, where am I going to get to that knowledge? The researcher inner journey, dreams and the alchemy of transformation. Publishing in MSR, for those who have some questions, this is a great talk with Konstantin and Yokanan. Done enough, wonderful. I love all the sessions. And they were very experiential as well, in the sense that the researcher embodied whatever result they get. And they also lead you through a small meditation, a small practice. I really enjoy that. Science from the inside out. Reimagining the university in the age of AI, kind of along those topics. Researching the mystical and then the clothing. So those are ideas of theme that we kind of are at the edge, are bubbling between the researcher that are trying to explore. I think we have a lot more, but I will stop here. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Gaetan, for sharing your experiences and showing us that beautiful website. It is indeed pleasure to hear. And I have a question for you. If a student wanted to explore a new or conventional research idea within MSR, where would you encourage them to start? Because I understand your earlier experience in classical grounded theory, and then you have transition and also taking more newer research themes, right? So I think you are the best person to help us understand if a student has to explore a new or unconventional research idea within MSR. Uh, where would you ask them to start with?
Well, I think that probably the answer is at different levels. There is a practical level of knowing what your university is looking for. I think Jerry mentioned that earlier, where, okay, I'm talking about spirituality with theology and it doesn't work. I'm speaking of spirituality with managers, it doesn't work. So you need to find a place where you can publish. And I think this group is there for that. From a practical perspective in terms of research, I would probably go with data. Autoethnography for spiritual research is always a great place to start. I think it's always a great place to start when you do qualitative, probably even quantitative, because a lot of quantitative questions are coming from a deep insight. So an autoethnography is a great way to maybe have a first paper published on your own experience, and then after you can collect more data and see how it emerged. Reading the literature is also, of course, something absolutely necessary. Then you can anchor whatever experience you have in the literature. So the grounded theory approach is you start with the data, you build a theory from there, and then you go in the literature to see how it interacts with it, because you don't know the literature, because you don't know exactly what you're going to find. The other way around is to look at the literature and see what are the different places where I think my experience could fit in. And then you can collect more data to see if there is something else to say on that topic. Does that answer your question?
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm sure that will be helpful for the student community and prospective researchers interested in doing research in the MSR domain. So now to share a deeply personal and lived journey into MSR, I'm delighted to invite our active member and dedicated volunteer, Saloni Sinha. Saloni, over to you. Would you like to share the screen or follow
No,
a
I
free
don't.
format?
Yeah, I
Sure.
don't have a screen slide to share, but I do have some very important stories which brought me here. So I'm very grateful that you have found some space for me as well in this team. I'm very happy and I feel a sense of calmness and collectedness within me whenever I meet all of you. And for all the work that you all have done, which I could be a part of, it has certainly evolved me. So I think I would like to take you back to 2022. That was my first interaction in Academy of Management, where I had submitted a symposium on one of my teaching innovation, which I did during COVID. And a very eminent professor, he saw my work during a conference of NACRA, and he said, "You must take this to TLC." I was not at all aware of Academy of Management until then, to be very honest. And when he said something like this, I was I felt good. And I did not know how to prepare for this symposium. I had no documents to support me in building my document. I did not know anyone over there who could help me. Out of instinct, I created a symposium document and I uploaded. And I was almost sure I will not be accepted. But then the TLC accepted my symposium and I got an opportunity to travel to Seattle. That is where my connection began with Payal. And I met her during the award ceremony at Seattle, where I got the Best Reviewer award and she got the Best Symposium. And I have that photograph with her after the award event. Now, it is very essential to meet more people, and you just don't know how your path would change after that. And so MED was a division I became a part of naturally because I was into teaching pedagogies and innovations, and that was the most relevant. And at that time, I also joined Social Impact DIG because my work was around community impact and mostly about community and people, human connectedness, wellness, well-being. So this was a natural, selection. But as I went deeper into MED, and since 2022, I'm very proud to share that I've been a part of all AOMs. My symposiums have been accepted, and I have spoken there. And every time I went there, I would meet so many people. And during the symposium, whoever attended. So it just took me closer to the fact that probably what I was doing was so connected with an inner evolution, a self-awareness, connecting with yourself, which I do with my students as well. And I use a lot of art, community work while I teach my topics in communication and sustainable development. So I was kind of integrating all of this. So it just started on that day when we met. And after that, I remained in touch with her. She was in Delhi, NCR, and often we would meet. And in that time, period, I was working and submitting to AOM. I was not a part of MSR. I was not logged in as a member of MSR, but I think I was there already a part of this community. So when Dr. Payal kept, sharing about her work, she shared a very nice article she had written in which she had addressed bullying, and she had also shared, it's a beautiful paper. I think everybody should read it. And she had shared a poem of her sister, and I kept reading that many times, and that inspired me to create a class activity on that adapting research papers, autoethnography research papers of professors from other parts of the world, including Dr. Payal's paper. And my students adapted it into theater and performed in class. So when we met at MED events and when I went to AOM, I would just select various sessions there, and I became a part. I attended so many. I met a lot of people. I spoke about my work. They spoke about my work in different groups. And that's how we met, Ekaterina. Your paper is in the book you showed, right? Honing self-awareness and all. So that's how I started knowing people who were doing so much with art and so much around spirituality and so much about human development, human flourishing. And that's when, this particular network, it gave me an opportunity to write for the book that Ekaterina talked about, Power of Arts, And I found people who could make my work visible by giving us such platforms. So being a volunteer is so beautiful here, because each one here provides you that opportunity, creates that space for you to talk about your work. And also bring me closer to being a researcher, which I was really not earlier. Now I have learned so much how to write. I've started thinking of autoethnography and writing about lived experiences and reflective, writing and, talking about it through articles now, which I will write more. So thank you for giving me these opportunities. All my class innovations are around art integration and what impact it has. Now, there was a question in the chat, and Prayas asked why should we review papers? Can I take that discussion a little ahead? Yes.
Yes, sure.
So then I started because I was a reviewer in all the past editions of AOM. And every year I was recognized. So I got Best Reviewer Award, Outstanding Reviewer Award. I became the Associate Editor for MED. And in MSR also now I'm officially a member and also reviewed, also an Associate Editor. So look at you. I mean, as a faculty, when you are growing in your career, all these milestones and your contributions, they have a lot of importance. So Prayas, please continue to review. And like Vineet said, you learn a lot. So while reviewing, I learned a lot. I learned how to write whatever work I'm doing, how to present that. And when you choose a community, which is where you choose it because you're working in that space. So you just start thinking, oh, wow, so many people are actually writing on things that you might want to write on. And you find your collaborations. I found my collaborations here, my co-authors who motivated me, inspired me to write. I've published 2 book chapters in the past on my teaching innovation. And MSR and MED both, particularly MSR now, because that's the kind of writing and work I have done. So I'm very grateful to be a part of this. As a volunteer, they are working hard to make our community visible through social media. So I think all of you, please follow our LinkedIn pages and all of them behind the scene. I've just started there. I'm just beginning to contribute. But at least by reposting, sharing, all that, broadcasting of whatever we do, that is going to introduce to you a lot of people who you would otherwise want to meet and or follow their work. And in getting into your own writing, you would want these kind of people to have conversations with. So they organize these colloquiums where you can meet. So many events happen. So I think I'm very, very proud to be a part of MSR, and it seems like within me there was something waiting to be expressed. And now I feel very happy to share what I do, which I was earlier not doing. So I love this space and thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to learn more, I'm sure. And I'm surely going to write more so that, we all can tell others what kind of work you do in the MSR community. And we have amazing mentors here. So beautiful to be here. I hope it will be an inspiration for others to start volunteering. I have volunteered at Academy of Management annual meetings where I got an opportunity to chair a session. So all these opportunities come when you go there, when you actually attend. But beyond that, even virtually, you can do so much and get acknowledged for that. We all get acknowledged for that. So we are mentioned at Academy of Management websites, and all this adds a lot of weight in the profile when you are in the top organization like an AOM. And choosing your digs, of course, MSR is a very, very, like you just started in the beginning, we all meditated and we all felt the glow within us. So that's beautiful. Everybody's taking care of us. So please ask us whatever you want to and do more. And sisterhood is something I have been talking about in research also. And I've shared about my experience in the book chapter as well. I think storytelling as a research method also is picking up, and also MSR allows you that, because these are all personal reflections and stories that are shared here. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Saloni, for sharing your MSR journey. Indeed, it was very encouraging and motivating. Uh, we got to learn a lot about how MSR has shaped up your academic
It
journey.
has. It
And
has.
yes, and you also answered several questions which were posted in the chat. So thank you once again. And to all the speakers, we are really grateful for your presence and your valuable advice. I now open the floor for questions. So this is your opportunity to ask questions, seek clarifications, and engage directly with our distinguished panel. So please feel free to post your questions either in the chat or you can unmute yourself. You can raise your hand virtually and unmute yourself and ask.
But maybe before that, we
Sure.
can give a floor to Ren to say a few words, because she was also
So I was planning
behind
up.
the
Sure.
scene. Yes,
Sure.
and to
Oh, yeah,
say
You
that's
want
how
to do that
grateful we
first?
are.
No, I was thinking after the questions. So she will have more experience of that. So, but we can. Okay, Ren, over to you. We would invite Ren, our student community ambassador and leader, to speak few words of their experience of this session and MSR in general. So over to you, Ren.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ren. I'm a rising fourth-year PhD candidate at the University of Massachusetts in their Boston campus. My very first AOM was actually the summer I was going into my first year. It happened to be here in Boston, and I did attend some of your meditation events that year, which was great. I'm hoping to be able to attend some this year as well. But I think what strikes me the most, having been now I'm a student ambassador for the student community of Academy of Management and a student rep for a different division about the management, the MSR division, is first and foremost how welcoming and passionate everyone is about not only the inclusion of individuals who are interested in this topic, but of just people in general. It's a very welcoming, warm environment. And I think that's something that happens frequently in management scholarship, right? As we get caught up in these bigger divisions, like no offense to the OB, division or the HR division, they're big divisions, they do important work, but we forget sometimes to encourage students to get involved in and find their communities and their people, which is sometimes is these smaller spaces where we have an opportunity to really connect with one another. And I think that's one of the most important things that we can do in our work is build these connections. These relationships are so important to the work that we do as organization scholars. And our religious backgrounds, our spirituality, our belief systems are really central to who we are, our values, the type of work that we do. And sometimes, at least from my subjective external opinion, that doesn't get centered as much in the work that everybody is doing. So I think what I'm most excited about in centering your work is giving a platform to how this does belong in management and organizational scholarship. And we need to talk about it more. I am happy to get in touch with any students who are interested in getting more involved in the student community, and I will always be thinking about students I can send to you. I actually am thinking I'm going to get off this call and send a message with your call for papers to someone who I just read one of his a draft that he has written. He's not based in the U.S. and I'm thinking very much about a working paper that he has that we've been chatting about that might be a good fit for your call. And so I'm always thinking about how can I connect people with the places and the people who they might not have had a chance to meet yet. And that's what this is all about. So thank you for all of your work in organizing this and for partnering with us. And I will turn it over to questions so that you have the time to support the others who are still here.
Sure. Thank you very much, Ren, for sharing your experiences and helping us arrange this event. I have a question for Jerry. Jerry,
Yeah.
would you like to share if a student joins MSR Division as a member today, what would be the first three things you would encourage them to do to make most of the experience?
Well, first thing I would encourage them to do is to show up at things. If you're at the conference, which I won't be this year, but I'm definitely going to try to be at the one in Vienna. So I'm trying to figure out how to get money to go to. But anyway, so if you're at the conference, talk to people, walk up to, go to the sessions, especially the PDWs, because the PDWs, you get more opportunity to talk to people. Go to the business meetings. Just show up, go to the morning meditations, talk to people. But all year long, we have these online things. We have webinars, we have the research colloquium, we just had the retreat, and just go to them, put things in the chat, ask questions, and the more you do that, the more you get to meet people. And you'll find that everybody in MSR is very willing to help. But you asked for three things. So what was that? There was one thing. The next thing is in terms of a paper, you're only allowed, if you're trying to publish something, you're only allowed to submit something to one journal at a time. But you are allowed to contact the editors of journals and say, hey, I have an article you might be interested. They don't tell you this. The first article I did, I sent it to a journal, they rejected it. So then someone gave me the advice, well, just write up a paragraph saying what it is and write it to the editor. Are you interested? And that's what happened. I wrote to one editor who said, well, I'm not interested, but talk to this guy, he might be interested. And then I wrote to that person and said the other person said that I should write to, that kind of thing. So that kind of networking thing is very important. So that's the second thing. And the third thing I would say is don't be afraid to, it's an opportunity now to really work on things that you really want to work on. And so, don't be afraid to go after it and try. So I think that's three. But the main thing is to show up. I mean, you'd be surprised at how many, and volunteer is the other thing, volunteer, because it looks like Ekaterina and Gaetan are doing all the work. And I think I'm on the phone with, I think I've been on Zoom calls with him every day for the last, I don't know. But anyway, volunteer, everybody, it's a volunteer organization. And so everybody can use the help. And the more you volunteer, the more you get known, the more you get known, it just kind of snowballs from there.
Thank you
I
very
hope,
much, Jerry. Yes,
yeah.
sure, that helps. Thank you very much. So now, as we begin to wrap up, I would like to turn our attention to the future, specifically how you can stay engaged with the MSR division beyond this open house. There are many exciting initiatives, programs, and opportunities waiting for you, from mentoring programs to PDW at upcoming AOM annual meeting and various other ways to participate and contribute. To share these opportunities with you in little more in detail, I'm pleased to invite our representative at large for communication and outreach, Dr. Ekaterina Ivanova, to walk us through the various ways you can remain connected. Over to you, Ekaterina.
Thank you so much, Vinit. I think all you need to know is MSR website, which Gaetan already showed to you. Another important source is our LinkedIn. So if you're officially already part of Academy of Management and you have selected MSR as your division, as your intellectual home, you will be receiving those messages automatically in your email address. But we know today that we're all overloaded with information. So often LinkedIn is much easier and faster way to stay in touch, to communicate. So just be there, stay there. And I think Vinit, you're doing an amazing job now with launching the new program for mentoring. So if you're a PhD student and you're looking for a mentor, we will be soon launching one. So stay tuned. We will soon announce it on our communication channels. And I think today you have listened to a lot of opportunities, how you can engage, and the stories of people behind this engagement. As Jerry was saying, it's important to just show up. So do show up virtually, in person, if you have this opportunity. And of course, there will be golden advices, as Jerry just shared today, how you can start publishing without knowing anyone in the field. So I learned a lot too. I didn't know the trick about getting and writing short emails to the editors if they're interested. But now, because of my exposure on LinkedIn, editors start writing to me. So I'm now getting this kind of inquiries. And I think this is also the result of being very much visible and volunteering that I've been doing actively over the 2 years. So it always pays back to you. So if you invest time,
Yes.
it comes back twice as much as what you have volunteered. So my advice to you, just show up and try. And we're also looking for volunteers. So if you want to do something, reach out to me, to Gaetan, to Saloni. AOM is coming up, and we're really looking forward to volunteers to help us with outreach activities. So please stay in touch. Thank you so much, Vinit. Back to you.
Thank you, Katrina. I've also posted the links for expressing the interest in our mentorship program in the chat. So if you would like to enroll as a mentee, seeking an opportunity to learn and grow, you can express your interest in the Google form, which is for the mentee. And if you would like to contribute to our community guiding emerging scholars and doctoral students, please enroll as a mentor. We look forward for building a vibrant mentor and mentee community and supporting each other's journey. So before we close, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you, our participants, for taking the time to join us today. Your curiosity, engagement, and thoughtful questions are what make communities like MSR vibrant and alive. I also want to express my deepest appreciation to our distinguished panelists, Dr. Tom Culham for his inspiring welcome address, Professor Jerry Biberman for sharing the historical foundations of MSR and also giving us valuable piece of advice, answering so many questions, Professor Payal Kumar for highlighting the scholarly landscape and also taking so many questions, Dr. Ekaterina for her insights on community and engagement and sharing what's coming up next in MSR, Dr. Gaetan Moment for exploring the new frontiers of MSR and talking about the interdisciplinary work, and Saloni Sinha for her inspiring words and encouragement for the student community. And to everyone who contributed to making this open house a meaningful and enriching experience. I also thank the AOM student community leaders and ambassadors, Ren and her team, for partnering with us backstage and help us organize this event. We hope this session has giving you a clearer sense of what MSR stands for, what it offers, and how you might find your scholarly home within this community. We warmly welcome you to explore MSR further. Thank you once again for being here. We look forward to seeing you at future MSR events, Academy of Management annual meeting, and in many scholarly conversations that lie ahead. Wishing you all the best. Take care and goodbye.